Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Supernatural. A great premiere. A lot of stuff went down in this episode, so let's break everything down. First of all, we kind of pick up with Michael. Basically, it's been 3 weeks since season 13's finale. Interestingly enough, Michael's whole thing is like what he's going around asking people what they want because, being kind of omnipotent to the degree that he is and knowing all that he knows, he's using, which is kind of interesting. It makes me wonder, does he just have natural omnipotence as like an angel in general? Or is it like, because you would think like maybe you'd only know about this world because of, is it like how does that work? I don't know if I've ever really questioned that before. I'm just thinking because it's like you're from a different world. So are you basing all the information you have on people in this world from what you had on people from your world? Or is it just kind of like a natural, like, oh, the moment you enter this world, you hacked into like the angel database or something like that. But it's probably just kind of like, oh, you just know everything. He's an archangel, so it puts him on a different level than typical angels anyway. So that probably plays a big role in that. But nevertheless, that's kind of getting all nitpicky about it. It's just something I was kind of thinking about. But basically, he's testing a lot of people. It's like, oh, you say you want this, but truth be told, it's not. You're lying. You're just trying to pretend like you're all good, but you've done terrible things here and there. Like that dude, Jamil. I also love kind of showing you how much of a douche Michael is, too, because he's like, Jamil's like, Gabriel? He's like, no, the other one, the better one. It's, kind of, I guess, an extra way to spit on your brother's grave, especially considering you just killed him. Like, fairly recently, timeline-wise, so I guess that just, technically you've killed both your brothers, but Gabriel was obviously, he has douchey moments, but in general, he was a good guy, and obviously you killed your other, like I said, but it's just interesting. Well, I also thought was kind of interesting too, is because he ends up running into Joe, which I figured that was going to happen. Did not go down the way I thought it was. I thought he was going to go to Joe and like they'd become a team because she was kind of doing her whole thing with Lucifer. But that didn't work out in the long run. So I thought, but it was going to be something like that. Turns out not to be the case. He actually doesn't like Joe because he's like, oh, you're up here pretending like all this junk, all this flashy trinkets, stuff like that matter to you. It doesn't. What you really want is love, a place to belong, a home, very human. And he looks down on her. It's like, ew, you're so disgusting. And he's like wondering like, hey, there's not that many angels left. Legitimately last time we checked, the exact numbers was barely double digits, if I remember correctly. So, but basically Michael was kind of like, he wants to remedy that situation. Once again, because that was the whole thing, Lucifer lied, like he knew how to make more angels. Maybe Michael does, but it seems like he's kind of doing his own thing first. I think I don't know. It's kind of interesting because even he's like, if the other angels are like Joe, they're not worth saving. Because it's interesting to me, because I'm curious in that 3 weeks, at any point in time, did any of the angels reach out? Because remember, all of them, wasn't that last season? We're all jumping to get Lucifer on their side because it's like they figured, yeah, he's the devil and everything, but he's the only option they had left. Well, they had Gabriel, but he was kind of doing his own thing at the time. So it's like, in a sense of, he is the last archangel. And that's for sure this time because Lucifer's dead and Gabriel's dead. So they don't really have much choice in the matter. So I'm wondering, why haven't they reached out? Do they just not know he's there? Has he not visited heaven in the time he's been on earth? Or maybe that's going to be one of his later stops. I'm curious about that because remember, heaven's in the state that it's in and everything. So, like I said, you'd assume they'd be jumping at an opportunity to meet up with him. But like I said, they might not be worthy because it's interesting, like I said, because his whole thing is all over the place because he's working with a vampire. Because I guess it's like, you are what you are. Well, I'm assuming it's a vampire because of the teeth and everything at the very end of the episode. But it seems like if you are honest with what you want and what you are, it's like, oh, you're not trying to lie and try to pretend to be something you're not. You simply want to eat. And it's like, oh, we'll work together. It's like, I guess even though he probably works with it, I'm sure he looks down upon it because he's an archangel. He's kind of a snob. I'm sure he looks down on everything and everyone because he's trying to do things differently this time. It's like, which I don't think you will. I think you'll end up destroying this world like you did your world. But hey, that's just me. So I'm just interested, what he's really aiming for, what he's trying to do. He's saying trying to make a better place, but how? I'm guessing he's going to use vampires as, his little henchmen is just kind of like, okay, I'll sick you and feed you on the weak and those who are unworthy. If they survive you, they're strong, so I'll take an interest in them. But if it turns out, oh, you're actually boring, you're just terrible, blah, 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 I'll just wipe you out myself. So I don't know. It just seems interesting to me that you're willing to work with monsters. Because I feel like monsters would be on the same level as demons for you. But, I mean, who knows? Since I brought him up, a very interesting thing is that we learned is Lucifer is dead, but Nick is alive. I was like, what? I was like, no. I was like, Lucifer survived? I was like, how is that possible? It's like, no, Lucifer didn't. Nick did, his host, which I was like, that's incredible. Sam's assumption is kind of like, basically, the angel blade is meant specifically to kill an angel, not the person inside. I mean, the host's body, which is interesting considering that's something that's never happened in the entire series. Like, there have been roundabout ways to handle situations like that. Like, when Sam would pull demons out of people with his powers back in the day, like that is the closest thing that's ever happened in a show like this. But like something like that, just killing the demon inside, like we have not seen something like that in a long time since. And so I think it's such a fascinating thing because it's never happened with an angel or demon. Because I was thinking like, oh, was it just because he was an archangel? Did that make it any difference? Like in retrospect, it's like, well, no, it wouldn't. Why would it? Because look at Gabriel, he still died, and it's like, well, that was a regular blade. Like if it was an angel blade, which, yeah, because it wasn't it was an angel blade, but it wasn't an archangel blade, so there's that whole situation. But that was just kind of interesting to me. So I guess we're going to be seeing him from time to time, which is so interesting. It's an interesting way of being like, oh yeah, we killed off that character, but we're still keeping the actor, Mark, and then Pellegrino, keeping him around because it's like, hey, so that's definitely going to be interesting. Obviously, he remembers only bits and pieces of his time as Lucifer, and it adds an interesting element of like the trauma of still having him around because, it still affects Sam because even Sam, when leaving, had to go, like, kind of take it. Because even Mary was like, I can't look at him in the face just because it's like, no matter what, even though he isn't Lucifer, he's still, look, that's the face they kind of got to know Lucifer through for so long. So it's kind of crazy to have Nick back, So I'm very interested, especially when it comes to the whole Rowena situation, how she's going to react to that when that first happens. I don't think there was any word or mention this episode about it. Because we know where Ketch and obviously Cassiel are, just because Cassiel ends up popping up in the story. But we know him and Ketch were like out looking up information about Michael. But I don't think any word came out about Rowena. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this. I don't remember if I brought this up in the season finale for 13. I probably didn't. It's a whole Rowena situation because we know that Sam's supposed to be killing her, and Billy already kind of stated that and everything. I'm chalking that up to, and now I'm sitting here thinking about it like just kind of one of my early season predictions, and just random thought was kind of like, Sam's going to have to kill her to either get Jack his powers back, which I don't think that was kind of like a later thought, but I'm kind of like throwing that out. No. But the main one's like, it's something related to getting Michael out of Dean. I think that's going to be because I'm like, what would be the other circumstances, especially where they stand now, especially because Sam and Rowena kind of understand each other on a level that no one else really can because of the whole Lucifer situation. I'm curious, like, what other circumstances would lead him to killing her? Not like she went evil again, but I don't think she's going to go evil. She might tiptoe that line, probably. We'll see that. She'll, do a Crowley situation, because that is his mom after all. But I think that ultimately would be the reason why he killed her. Like I said, that's just an early prediction. That whole situation might not even get tackled this season. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I mean, it's kind of interesting because it kind of like, there's a whole Dean situation because Billy knew a lot more about Dean's destiny and all that, blah, 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 blah. That's just going to be a big part of this season. We're just going to have to wait and see. But just kind of throwing that out there as just an early prediction and thought process. We'll see in the long run whether that ends up being a case or not. So, since I was bringing him up too, Jack is without his powers. Eventually his grace will come back, but I guess because so much of his grace was drained, it's going to take even longer to like fully and completely recharge. So he's kind of without his powers, so he's training and stuff like that. But for him, he's just not used to it. I love the whole conversation between him and Bobby. Bobby's like, yeah, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can take a hit and then still keep moving forward. And Jack's like, did Gandhi say that? And he's like, and Bobby's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, something like that. I'm like, oh, I love you, Bobby. So there's that. Obviously, Sam is searching hard for this whole, Dean situation. You have Mary trying to be optimistic. It's interesting because I think this kind of puts Sam in a little bit of a different role than he kind of is typically, because Sam is the one being very pessimistic, where his mom is kind of being the more optimist, which they both are worried and they're just trying to handle it different ways. Like Sam doesn't want to give himself any hope, whereas Mary's like, I have to, because if I don't, I'm gonna wallow in just those negative bad thoughts. And if I do, that's not going to do any good for Dean. I know there's a chance he might not come back, but I'd rather have hope than not. Which, that was always kind of something I feel like more often than not throughout the series, Dean has been the most, like, they flip-flop, but I feel like more often than not, Dean is the one that's the most pessimistic while Sam is optimistic. Not always. Like, we know there have been cases, fairly recent cases of, like, Sam being super Mr. Negative, where Dean had to be the one to kind of be like, hey, yo, like, spark up. So, like I said, they have a tendency to flip-flop, but I just feel like typically it's Dean that's typically the more negative one, but, so I thought that was kind of interesting. And we also have Sam kind of running the operation, which is kind of fascinating, because because the show's always been Sam and Dean for such a long time, just by themselves. Yes, they have other connections like Castiel, and they have the Hunters Network, but typically it's usually them on their own. But Sam's kind of running the show. Like, there's the people still there at the bunker, but there's also the other people who, the other teams that have kind of scattered around, handling things, probably hunting supernatural stuff, also tracking down any information about this whole Michael situation. So there's that. So it's kind of interesting seeing Sam kind of in that leadership role. I doubt it will ever tie back in, but like the Men of Letters, like British Men of Letters, will that ever circle back around? The whole point was to kind of get them the hell out. So that situation was kind of closed in season, was that 12? Yes. I had a brain fart there. So like I said, I don't know if that's ever going to circle back around in that regard. Maybe. I mean, we know they're still active, because even Ketch went to get them. It's so interesting because, like, it has this long-winded name, but basically they were looking for the egg that they used to get Lucifer out of the president, but Ketch couldn't find it. And immediately my brain goes, it has to be Michael. Michael must have got it or destroyed it. Or maybe the last time they used it, Lucifer tracked it down and destroyed it just so you would never do that again. But I'm thinking it's Michael, because Michael had brought up something interesting. Like, the reason why he went after Joe, he knew everything about Joe because Dean knew stuff about her. So it does seem like there's probably some immunity into certain regards to how much he can know. Maybe he can't be like omnipotent when it comes to angels. Humans is one thing, but like a lot of angel stuff is probably like hidden behind their powers and kind of off the radar. You can't just tap into it whenever you want to. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And that's why I kind of feel like Dean knows about the eggs. So Michael probably made sure to track it down and make sure that he got rid of any potential means of removing him from Dean, So Cassio got captured by that demon named Kip. I thought it was kind of interesting because obviously Cassio went to him, but he never said anything about the Dean situation. It's like, oh yeah, Dean Winter. So it's like, oh, why are you looking for Dean? Oh, is it bad? Oh, you spilled. I was like, why wouldn't you just bring up the fact is that he's an angel? I mean, for one, I guess it's like, why let your enemy know anything? You're not there bargaining information. It's just like, okay, they don't need to know all the details. But maybe it's also because if they knew, it would make them all target Michael, and that'd be more, Dean could get hurt in the process. But to be fair, I doubt there's any demon around, because pretty much all the heavy hitters, the Princes of Hell were kind of like the last demon heavy hitters. But obviously with this Kip situation, it shows that there's some here and there, but they're not like Princes of Hell level. So there's no like heavy hitting demons left, at least not that we know of. So I don't think anyone would really even come close to Michael. I mean, even if there were heavy hitting demons, no one would kind of come close to Michael anyway, so especially because he's in his perfect vessel, he's fully charged and everything, so. But essentially, I like the twist because essentially Kip is like, oh yeah, someone asked me what I want. It's like, okay, so he already knows about the Dean situation. Like, he knew where this was all going because he already knows about Dean. He already knows about Michael. He didn't let it slip because the last thing he wanted them to know is that he did have information on Dean, so he kept it cryptic. So, but we as the audience know, it's like, oh, that bastard actually ran into him. Which shows also, interestingly enough, that he has dealt with demons, because the fact is he went to a demon to ask him that question. So it's like, like I said, I don't know. I guess he's trying to create a pure world. Like, I think in some twisted way, he wants this perfect equilibrium of control over everything. He wants there to be a certain balance that he's even willing to work with demons if it means like, oh yeah, because it's like at any point in time you could have just killed him, but it's like I guess like demons are part of your plan or part of your perfect world. A means. I mean, obviously, once again, it's like they're a means to an end. Maybe like they're just kind of meant to be the pawns to kind of get him what he needs to kind of clear the slate and kind of, like I said, wipe out the weak and unworthy and those not worth saving, and then wipe them out, and then he's got his perfect world. Like I said, that's my current running thought. So it turns out he's trying to be the king of hell, as Kips. He says himself, like, what he ultimately wants is he wants everything. That's why he's keeping Cass alive. Why he wants to meet with Sam is because he wants everything. Because currently hell has no king. Like, there's no one else to fill that role. Last king was Asmodeus, and he's gone. Do people know that Lucifer's dead? I don't think they do. That didn't come up, did it? I don't think it did. No, I think the last thing that got brought up was like, oh yeah, like Asmodeus is dead. Like, no one knows Lucifer's dead. Because I guess like they don't want people knowing that. Maybe he did. Like, I'm blanking. I don't remember. I feel like he didn't bring up Lucifer, but like I said, I could be remembering that wrong. But nevertheless, he wants to step up, which when it was all said and done, Sam ended up killing him and told all the other demons. So it's like there's never going to be another king of hell. If you want to step to it and try to get the throne, you'd have to come through me. And he's like, they all bailed the human bodies they're in. And he's like, that's what I thought. Because no one wants to go up against Sam Winchester. Even Kip was saying to himself, it's like, you're a legend. The fact of the matter is, it's like, you're freaking Sam Winchester. You've tackled and taken down a lot of pretty, the Winchesters have tackled a lot of pretty stuff. A lot of stuff. They've stopped the apocalypse multiple times. They've literally stopped God's sister. So it's kind of like, yeah, you don't want to deal with them. The throne isn't worth your death. So because I was curious about that too, like what hell's whole situation was going to be like. Maybe trying to search for a king secretly, they might find out about the Lucifer situation. Maybe that's also why they have Nick locked up. I mean, to be fair, that's also because he was kind of out of it for such a long time, recovering. But now I'm thinking it's also because like they can't have him just walking around. Can demons sense each other like that? Would they be able to, like, it seems like it takes a little bit to kind of really notice that, like, oh, someone's you. I don't know if I don't know if demons have that whole demon vision of being like, oh, you're not a demon. Maybe they wouldn't not bother, because that might be something we see later on about Nick being around, because Nick can pretend to still be Lucifer, get information. There might be points where we have him infiltrate hell potentially because of that. I don't know. That's me kind of throwing that out there, but I feel like that's going to be something they kind of stash away for later. But like I said, we'll see in the end. That was kind of interesting. So, like I said, that was already set up and kind of already dealt with. But I'm wondering, are we sprinkling? The fact is that is something that will still be going in the background, that people will be, gunning for the crown. It also means that Sam did put even more of a target on his back, because it's like, if anyone wants the throne, the best way to get it is to kill Sam Winchester. So there's that. You have Jack kind of feeling bummed out because it's like, I don't have my powers. I feel useless, and, Castiel gives him the talk of like, the fact of the matter is, don't say that you don't have anything. You have me. You have everyone here. You've got your family, and we'll save Dean, and we will deal with Michael together, because that's what we do. So that was kind of a nice speech. Interestingly enough, you had Joe calling Sam. I don't know whether that was a trap or not, because I mean, I guess it's also because it's like, yeah, Michael would wipe her out if need be. So even she probably wants to be like, yeah, we need to kind of nip this in the bud. She even said we kind of have a problem. So it's like maybe Joe and Sam have kind of been tight subsequently since the whole her running with Lucifer. Because wasn't the last time we saw her last season was when she left Lucifer? I think that was the last time she popped up last season. I could be wrong about that. But maybe that's what that is. Or maybe she has more of an idea of what he has planned. Because essentially it's kind of like with Lucifer, she was trying to take advantage of the situation, get what she wanted in the end. With Michael, she probably feels like there's no winning with that. Not unless that's, like I said, part of a trap or something that, Michael / her are setting up. But we'll kind of, like I said, we'll have to wait and see in that front as well. a great start to the season. I'm very interested to kind of see where this all takes us. Like ultimately, what Michael ends up doing, his big plans this season. Like I said, because there's currently no one or probably nothing currently out there to be able to stop him and get him out of Dean. So I'm so interested to see where everything kind of takes us going forward within this regard. Because it's interesting too, because there was already that talk of vampires nearby earlier in the episode, and then there's this whole situation with Michael, and he was working with, once again, I'm saying just because of the teeth and everything, a vampire too. So it's like maybe that's all connected in a certain regard, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see. So I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.